Kirby in the Forgotten Land feels like a complete series redirection in the same way that Breath of the Wild was one for the Legend of Zelda series. You see, this new entry brings Kirby into a fully 3D adventure. You may be thinking, I've played a 3D Kirby game before, like Air Ride and Return to Dreamland, and you're right, but not like this. Forgotten World is a true 3D platformer as opposed to some spin-off with limited 3D, or a 3D model in a 2D camera view, and honestly, it's so much darn fun. Our story begins with a dark hole that opens up over the planet Popstar. As the vortex expands, the innocent inhabitants of the world get sucked in, including Kirby and the Waddle Dee. The group finds themselves scattered across this new world where the Waddle Dee have begun to get kidnapped by these giant creatures. Now it's up to Kirby to save his friends and restore his home along the way. Especially for a Kirby game, Forgotten Land's story seems a lot more thought out, with more attention put into its characters and general plotline. I don't want to get too into its plot points for the sake of spoilers, but I'd say that this is by far one of the more convoluted stories for a Kirby game, at least when compared to the series' history. I didn't think it was amazingly written, but I appreciated the extra time and effort into making a story that was more cohesive than what came before it. From the moment I heard the incredibly anime-like opening song to the end credits of the postgame, I had a fun time making my way through its about 10-hour story. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter compare Kirby in the Forgotten Land to Mario Odyssey, and I don't completely agree with that comparison. Instead, Kirby plays a lot more like Super Mario 3D World. You see, despite what the trailers have shown, Forgotten Land isn't as open world as we've seen it, and instead feels more like linear levels that just look like mini sandboxes. With those expectations in check, I'm happy to say that the change in expectation isn't bad at all, because these levels are so thoughtfully designed in ways prior Kirby games haven't been. The core mechanic of the Kirby series has always been Kirby's signature copy ability, and that continues here where it's translated perfectly into 3D. Kirby can waddle, copy, jump, and float across levels like he usually can, although his flying has been nerfed a bit just to keep Kirby from feeling a bit too OP. Speaking of which, from the start of the game you're able to choose the difficulty from either a normal setting to a challenging one. Both are still relatively easy, with the challenging mode being more noticeable during boss encounters, where choosing the correct copy ability tends to matter a little more. While exploring the new world for his friends, Kirby will come across all sorts of new locations that put his copy abilities to the test. While prior games have pushed you to use your abilities to take out enemies, Forgotten Land feels different in how it centralizes that ability not just around combat, but also platforming, even going as far as evolving through an upgrade system. When you first start the game, Kirby has access to a few copy abilities like Fire, Ice, Sword, and Spiral, common ones you may recognize from prior games. They do a great job at fighting off enemies and feeling like classic Kirby. Throughout each level you're given a set of challenges to complete, some made clear and others not so much. It can be collecting some Waddle Dee, finding secret items, or discovering an Easter egg in the terrain. They add on to the replay value of each level, giving you more opportunities to save more Waddle Dee and collect the in-game metal currency. That currency comes in handy because as you save more Waddle Dee, they'll begin to rebuild their home. It's here where you'll be able to upgrade your abilities through the weapon shop. It's a neat mechanic that can upgrade something like your firepower to a volcano blast, or even turn your single spiral item into a dual one. Seeing the evolutions of these powers was exciting, and it came in handy with boss fights too. Later sections of the game even push you to use these powers as platform mechanics, like using the wind ability to activate a section of switches in a single fluid motion. Outside of the core copy abilities, Kirby is able to now inhale inanimate objects with mouthful mode. While there isn't the ability to copy these items, Kirby is still able to control said object. It's so silly to execute, yet so charming that I never got tired of it. Despite the comedic effect and just how goofy it looks, it's a central platforming and puzzle mechanic that makes exploring levels a lot more fun. Forgotten Land consists of 7 worlds with levels ranging from 4 to 6 levels depending on the world. Those levels are the main objective types of levels, but there are also some bonus levels that feel more like challenges to test out your various copy abilities. Each world also has a boss encounter that pits Kirby against one of the beasts that have been kidnapping the Waddle Dee. These creatures are huge, filled with life, and have their personalities on full display as you fight them off. They feel very reminiscent of the boss battles in the 3D Mario games or Splatoon, and I mean that in the best way possible. I do wish they were slightly more challenging, even though they sort of are more than prior Kirby games, but I still think they could have gone a bit further. Kirby in the Forgotten Land is a lovely looking game. It's presented with beautiful vibrant colors and a saturated color palette that instantly captures the bright and positive vibes the Kirby series has been long associated with. The art direction mixes in aspects of Kirby's more cartoon-like art style with realistic elements for a fusion that shouldn't work but does. Kirby is as expressive as ever, with hilarious facial expressions during some charming cutscenes. Forgotten Land is just filled with charm, from the adorable enemy creatures to Kirby inhaling large inanimate objects to the wanted posters around the levels. In regards to performance, Forgotten Land runs at the dynamic resolution reaching as high as 1080p and as low as 810p in dock mode. In handheld mode, it's still running at a dynamic resolution, though it tends to hover more around 720p more often than not. Frame rate targets 30 frames per second and tends to stay there for the most part outside of a few one-off scenarios. Like a lot of recent Nintendo first-party games, Kirby is lacking any anti-aliasing, meaning that at least in dock mode, you can notice a lot more of the game start to have a bit of a shimmer or fuzzy effect on the edges of characters. That's less noticeable in handheld mode where the pixel density is higher, which if you're playing on an OLED model, looks amazing in handheld mode. While the game does look beautiful, I do wish it was able to hit a solid 60 frames per second target like other Nintendo 3D platformers. Perhaps it was the fact that it was spoiled by Odyssey and 3D World before it, but the fluid motion and the platforming would have been great to see here. It may be indicative of just how an upgraded Nintendo Switch could be useful 5 years after the original's release, especially when you consider how many of the background elements tend to run at a lower frame rate than the 30 frames per second. The Kirby series has always had a catchy soundtrack, from the classic Dreamland theme to the always delightful Invincibility Candy theme. Forgotten Land is no different, featuring one of the most catchy openings to a Nintendo game I've heard in a while. I mean, just watch this opening sequence. This is the most anime I've seen a Nintendo game get since maybe Fire Emblem. It's so wholesome and adorable, and I absolutely love it. Each of the tracks does a great job of capturing the various locations Kirby will travel to save his friends, from the lush forests, abandoned malls to the seaside beaches. This game really does take you everywhere. Kirby in the Forgotten Land is a delightfully pleasant new take on the Kirby series that raises the bar for what a Kirby game can be. The switch to 3D elevates the series to new heights while cleverly using iconic mechanics like the copy ability in new ways such as platforming and evolving RPG mechanics. HAL has made some big changes to the Superstar Pink Puff, one that I hope become the new standard in the future. While future iterations can improve on the game's performance and continue to evolve the bosses to be more challenging, I'm more than pleased with where they're taking Kirby.